Hello, and welcome to the housing webinar series on choosing your 2021 housing. My name is Countess Hughes, and I'm the Assistant Director of Housing Assignments at Housing and Residence Life at the University of Virginia. And let's begin talking about housing. The first thing you need to know is that you have time and you have choices. Making your housing decision is an important one, so you want to take your time in doing that. But note that there's no shortage of housing at UVA or in the Charlottesville area, and that there are an abundance of housing options. The university offers attractive upper class housing options, but be sure to adhere to the deadlines for on-grounds housing. And remember that on-grounds housing is offered but not guaranteed, and that off-grounds housing is available throughout the spring and summer for you to commit to. So don't rush, take your time, you have choices. Some things that make sure that you ask yourself are, who do you want to live with? Somebody you already know? How well do you know them? Or do you want to take the opportunity to just secure your own housing and then have the opportunity to meet other students or other folks and not necessarily worry about who else you're living with and have an opportunity to meet some new folks? Where do you want to live? On grounds, off grounds, and where in either of those locations do you want to live? And most importantly, how much do you want to pay, or how much can you afford to pay? Those are questions that you should ask yourself and really think about as you begin this process of securing your housing for next academic year. Some important points to consider is that don't sign or commit yourself to either on or off grounds housing without talking to those people who you talk to in your life about making important decisions, family members, other adults, sometimes friends. Housing is a large financial commitment. You want to make sure that you review your lease or your agreement with those adults in your life, your family members. Again, the university has student legal services that they're happy to review your housing agreement or lease with you. You want to visit as much as you can or as allowed the housing options that you're thinking about. Sometimes you may not be able to go inside, but you definitely want to make sure that you review the outside. Where's the location? Make sure you check it out at night. See if you can ascertain the building condition and safety measures that are in place. You always want to make sure that you clarify what your rent includes and be sure to understand any additional fees and cancellation options, or is cancellation even an option after you sign and commit? And you want to make sure you determine and understand the length of your lease, whether it's an academic year or if it's 12 months or some other flexible lease option. My primary responsibility is for on-grounds housing assignments. My staff and I are responsible for all on-grounds housing. We also provide educational information about how to select off-grounds housing. So for on-grounds housing, we offer central locations, close to university resources, classes, and dining. Housing is only for students, but you also have the opportunity to select your roommates and to select online where you live. It's a set cost and all utilities are included. There's an opportunity for independence. You can live in an apartment, have the opportunity to clean your own place, cook your own meals. But if you need assistance, there are RAs around and who are happy to provide programming opportunities and assistance for you if you need it. So you have the opportunity to be independent, but also have the opportunity to have RA resources available to you if needed. You have the opportunities for quality interactions with other students on a daily basis. And note, we are fully air conditioned in all of our housing now, in all of our upper class areas, except for the lawn. And that billing and payment is through your SIS account. So it's one easy payment at the beginning of the semester when tuition and fees are due. Some of our upper class options include our residential colleges, Brown, Hereford, and the International Residential College, known as the IRC. There are language houses available, the French House, the Spanish House, and the Shea House, which has multiple languages. Our upper class apartments, Vice Bond, Copley, Faulkner, and Lambeth, which offer as few as 2 people to an apartment and as many as 6. And they offer both single and double rooms depending on which housing complex that we're talking about. Also, we have a hallway style Johnson Malone and Whedon houses that offer that more traditional residential hall experience if that's what you're looking for. The order for our housing application phases are the students who currently live on grounds in upper class areas. So that's our upper class students and our students who live in our residential colleges have the opportunity to select to remain or elect to remain in their current location. And again, please pay attention to the deadlines for that option. Then our rising second year students have the opportunity to apply and select housing. And then the third phase is all students who do not have housing yet. How to apply for on-grounds housing. The application to stay in the same housing area, again, for our upper class students and our students who live in our residential colleges, that application opened on January 5th. And the application to apply new as a new applicant or to apply to the residential colleges and language houses also open on January 5th. Those deadlines to complete those processes or the deadline for the application for those processes is January 28th. Please do not miss this deadline if you're a current upper class student or a current student in a residential college who wants to remain where you are in your same area, or if you want to apply to be in a language house or residential college if you don't already live in one, that deadline is January 28th. For those students who are thinking about living in one of our apartment areas or in Johnson Malone Whedon, also known as JMW, that application opens February 15th, and the deadline to complete that application and form your roommate groups is February 25th. Things to remember is that students who are participating in the online room selection process will have the opportunity to go on and see what's available and pick a particular location for themselves and their roommate group, if they have a roommate group, or just for themselves if they are going solo. It's similar to how you would pick like seats on an airplane or seats in a movie theater. So it's very different than the first year residential housing process, which is really random. And if you live on grounds and you have the opportunity to go study abroad, you're easily released from your housing agreement. And then also if you are able or like to go to abroad in the fall, you can apply for spring housing coming back. So that's a very easy process as opposed to what you may need to do in terms of subletting if you live off grounds. Also, don't forget that signing a UVA housing agreement is identical to signing an apartment lease. It is binding and it is legal. Some of our off-grounds housing options and locations that are available. There are houses, there are small apartment complexes, there are large apartment complexes. Locations are varied. They include the Corner, JPA, Rugby Road, Scott Stadium, and some other locations that are available. And you want to think about how close to grounds you want to be, or if you want to get that feeling of kind of leaving grounds and going home. There are lots and varied and all kinds of options and locations off grounds as well. Some of the things you want to think about in terms of priority and amenities in terms of both on grounds and off grounds housing is the cost, the location, the length of the lease. Is it 12 months? Is there another flexibility? Is it academic year? You want to make sure that you think about the quality of the house or the apartment, whether you want to have your own bedroom or your own bathroom or both, how many people you want to share a house or apartment with. You want to make sure that you understand how the rent is divided. There are places off grounds that rent by the bed. So you're only responsible for the rent for your particular bedroom. And there are some places where whoever's in the apartment is responsible for the cost of the apartment. So say there are 4 of you and you go into a 4-person apartment and then someone is unable to return. Sometimes the 3 people who are remaining would be responsible for the full rent of the whole apartment and not just their particular part of that. So you want to make sure you understand how the rent is divided, what's included in the rent, Different places vary in terms of what utilities are included in the rent. So you want to make sure you understand that as well. And is the apartment furnished? If the apartment is not furnished, that's an additional cost um, that you will have in order to live in that place for the next academic year. And what other amenities is it that you want? Pool, workout room, etc. And then are you going to actually use that amenity? So you make sure you understand that. And also finally, parking. If you're going to have a car, you want to make sure you understand, is parking included? Is it extra? Or if you don't have a car, or you have a car and you still don't want to drive that to on grounds, you want to make sure that you understand, is it close to a bus route? Is there a shuttle? And basically how you're going to get to grounds from the place that you choose to live. How to find off-grounds housing. We have an off-grounds housing site. We partner with a third party, and they have created the off-grounds housing website for us, where you can sign up, create an account, and then you can look for housing. You can create a roommate profile. There's the company that we work with has launched a new website this year, so it's going to be very exciting as to they have many options and things that you can look for. So that is one way for you to search for off-grounds housing options. And then finally, there's going to be a virtual housing fair on February 17th, where you'll have the opportunity to meet virtually and speak with some of our off-grounds housing properties that would be available to you. I've mentioned before that housing is a big financial commitment, and so you want to make sure that you have your finances in order. And one service that Student Financial Services provides is a peer counseling, financial counseling option. So if you want to know more about what that is, please go to the Peer Financial Counseling website, which is on this slide. And you can also make an appointment with the peer financial counselors. And sometimes it's nice, you get lots of advice from people you know, family members, adults, but sometimes it's nice to talk to a trained peer who really knows what it's like living on your own or somewhat on your own and having to get your finances in order. So I feel like that is a really great service offered by the university and Student Financial Services, is this peer financial counseling. Please take advantage of that. Also, if you're a student who receives financial aid or wants to know more about financial aid, again, I advise you to speak with the folks over at Student Financial Services who work with financial aid. Note that all the deadlines, the FAFSA and the CSS profile, they are available now. And the deadline for financial aid is March 1. So you want to make sure that you start to get those things in order and meet those deadlines. Financial aid disbursements take place no earlier than 10 days prior to the beginning of each term. And so you want to make sure that if you select or elect to live off grounds, and if your lease starts July 1, that you have payments in order for July 1 and August 1, so that you have that in order and you're ready to go, because you will not get your financial aid disbursements before those rents are due. Also keep in mind the cost of attendance for 9-month room and board is, for this year, this current academic year, 2020-2021, it's $12,350. So you want to make sure you understand what portion of that will be available to you through financial aid and the disbursements. Again, I'm not a financial aid expert, but there are some things that you want to make sure that you understand going into housing, particularly if you choose to live off grounds. So visit the Student Financial Services website, or email or call Student Financial Services so you can speak to someone who works in financial aid and understand how your living choices impact your particular financial aid package. So your next steps are to begin kind of searching for your options and thinking seriously about where you might want to live. You can look at our on-grounds options on our housing website. We have pictures and floor plans and details about our upper class housing options. search the off-grounds housing website so you can begin to know what some of those options are that are available and get an idea of what those are so that you can make a good choice. You can view our other upcoming Live On Housing webinars. January 19th is our Residential College and Language House webinar. February 2nd is information particularly for our rising second year students and their housing options. February 9th will be our on-grounds housing options, our overall things that are available, the apartments in Johnson Malone Wheaton, which is our hallway style housing option for upper class students. And then finally, February 16th, we'll talk about making the decision to live off grounds and what those options look like. And again, that's going to be followed by a virtual off grounds housing fair on February 17th from noon to 2, when you'll be able to virtually meet with some of the off grounds properties and off grounds housing option folks that are available for you. If you have questions, I will be offering Zoom office hours every Tuesday and Thursday in January and February. The dates are indicated on the slide from 11 to 1. I just open Zoom, there'll be a waiting list. I'm happy to speak to you individually and answer any question that you have about housing and making your housing choice for the 2021-2022 academic year. We're here for you. We want you to remember that don't stress, you've got this. Choose wisely, don't rush into a decision. There are lots of available options. And remember, when you sign a lease or commit to on-grounds housing, it is legally binding. And so you want to make that choice carefully and really think about it and make it wisely. But again, don't stress. You got this. If you have questions, in addition to the Zoom office hours, you can always contact our office or email us at housing@virginia.edu. You can talk with your RA or senior resident. And again, don't forget about our other upcoming Live On Housing webinars. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.